So one of the things that we committed to right from the beginning was that we were going to assess the needs, but we were going to follow that up with action.
BusinessJournalDaily.com 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Save, borrow, and invest with Farmers. Take heart knowing you're helping create a strong community. Mind your money at Farmers. Talk directly to local decision makers about your loans, investments, and insurance. Farmers. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal.
We are needing to figure out how to get more people into the workforce. Goodwill did a community needs assessment to identify some data around that. The data shows that we have a labor participation rate of 57% compared to the rest of the state and nation, which is at 63%. So for our population, that represents 20,000 people that are not working. And we feel wholeheartedly that a majority of those individuals can work, want to work, but have a barrier to employment. So part of the needs assessment was identifying those barriers, and now we are in the process of creating strategies to overcome the top 4 barriers to employment so that we can add hopefully another 10,000 or more workers into the labor force by 2030.
About a year ago, I reached out to the chamber because I saw the initiatives that they were doing for population growth and workforce development training. And one of the thoughts that I initially had was they were looking at more vulnerable populations, and Youngstown area Goodwill Industries, that we have a 130-year history of working with populations in marginalized communities and vulnerable populations. So I reached out, invited them for a tour, and Brenda came and toured, Guy came and toured, sat down and talked about it. We were already looking to do a community needs assessment on our own, and once we started talking about partnering together, it made so much sense because we would be able to work with the entire community rather than just a smaller part of it for Goodwill.
We have identified the top 4 barriers. So, and for example, one of them is the number 1 is transportation. So we can bring together now employers, individuals who need to overcome the transportation issues, service groups such as WRTA and others that can provide the transportation, and we can come up with unique strategies to make sure that there's an ability for some of these marginalized individuals to overcome their transportation barrier and take a job. So the other barriers, number 1 is transportation, number 2 is childcare, number 3 is behavioral health, and number 4 is addiction.
So one of the things that we committed to right from the beginning was that we were going to assess the needs, but we were going to follow that up with action. So we feel that this is going to help the workforce participation rate because now we have a trajectory of how we're going to be intentional about addressing these barriers that exist. So we have childcare, we have transportation, and we have behavioral health. Those are all entities where there's a lot of resources out in the community, a lot of individuals who are already working in those spaces. So if we intentionally engage each other and we all come together and begin talking about how we can get to the root of those issues and solve them, we believe that's going to generate more workforce as people are able to overcome those barriers and get to work.
We know that talent is the number 1 concern for employers. For the new companies that Lake to River is trying to attract, for the existing companies that we're trying to help expand, the biggest issue for all of them is always the access to talent. And so this aligns perfectly well with the number 1 priority, which is to increase the workforce. That's why we've made population and talent expansion our top priority at the regional chamber.
The assessment was complete and we reported that back in October of 2024. So the step that immediately followed that was hiring a community solutions director because we really felt that having one person who had a focus on this was extremely important. Because you can say in an organization that you're committed to it, but we all know that organizations are very fluid and things come up, and we did not want this to fall to the back burner. So we're fortunate we had a generous grant from the Youngstown Foundation, which allowed us to hire Carol Holmes Chambers in this role, and she started in December. She's currently working to put together the framework with which the entities will come together to discuss these barriers. We're going to use collective impact through a generous donation from the Community Foundation, there's training involved with this, and everybody who's involved will be able to take that training. And now we know where we're going and how we're going to get there because we're all on the same page.
I think you'll see a lot more public, private, philanthropic partnerships to address that issue. I think you'll see things like TRICARE. TRICARE is where the state, the employer, and the employee each pay 1/3 of the child care costs. We'll hopefully see an expansion of child care providers. And so also in transportation area, you might see a lot more partnerships between employees and employers to come together around transportation and overcome that barrier. You see hopefully a lot more cohesion between behavioral health providers and employers, increasing that communication so that the behavioral health providers can have a good understanding of what it means to get the clients de-risked in the eyes of the employers, help employers understand that it's not so risky to take on some of these individuals. I think you'll see some partnerships with some of our institutions such as the Northeast Ohio Correctional Center so that inmates can come out prepared to take a job right away. So a lot of these pathways, I think, are going to be increasing over the next 5 years. We really appreciate Goodwill Industries really stepping up and taking their workforce development program to an entirely new level, and it aligns perfectly with where we need to take this community.
I believe that the collaboration in this valley is stronger than it's ever been. I'm a lifelong resident of the Mahoning Valley, and it is exciting to see businesses, government officials, local nonprofit entities coming around the table together to discuss what the issues are, but not just discuss the issues, really seek solutions to those issues. And I believe that the best is yet to come.
BusinessJournalDaily.com 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Save, borrow, and invest with Farmers. Take heart knowing you're helping create a strong community. Mind your money at Farmers. Talk directly to local decision makers about your loans, investments, and insurance. Farmers. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal.